guys, welcome back to the Culture Cave. I'm Anthony, and I'm with Emmett again.
Yeah, Epsilon has returned from the future.
Epsilon, I forgot about our code names.
Oh, Epsilon and Alpha.
Yeah, Epsilon and Alpha here to bring you. Or we could be Epsilon and Alpha, or we could actually be, I don't know what you call it, but that like Norwegian sign, which has the A and the E, but the A is leaning into the E and touching it. You know that one?
Oh God, yeah. What is that called? Well, we'll check that later at a later stage, and we'll put it to the comments on what they think our code names should be.
Well, it's
You
part of
know,
it's
for our
part of it's part of Elon Musk's child's name. That's all I know.
oh yes.
Yeah, whatever that is, I can't even remember. It's some
Oh,
beep boop beep or something.
yeah.
All right, okay. So we're here to talk about Sisyphus episode 10. After this, we've got 6 to go. It is
Oh no.
it's a really long show, is what I'll say, which I'm actually loving because every week, like for example, this week, right? We might as well get right into it. This week,
Yeah.
they add in another layer, which you're not expecting it to happen, and all of a sudden it becomes so much deeper. So the introduction of well, he's already been a main character, I suppose, but in the current timeline, the introduction of Hay's father into this storyline, and I think we got confirmation that he, now I didn't actually put it together till this episode, but he was the partner of the future comebacky time cop guy, who,
Yes, our best friend.
our best friend
Miss.
G, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So Hyun Ji, I think his name is, but yeah, so
Indeed, yeah.
he's actually the partner of him. I didn't realize until this episode, but obviously his face has been on it. It must have been like the reveal should have been at the time whenever we should have noticed when we first saw his face. Oh, that's the partner, but I didn't even realize that. So what do you think about
Yeah.
this character being more into the detective-y stuff now?
Yeah, it's good to get him involved more with the plot. It's nice to like see him linking in with things because we've obviously seen him mostly in the context of like the future
Yeah,
side of him, and like it's nice to see that like his younger self was at least involved to a certain degree later on, or like later on in the story.
yeah,
So we did see him obviously at the start. Yeah, but I think the reason that we didn't maybe notice him is because in that scene there was already a lot of stuff going on. Like we got really fixated on the because this was still at the stage where we were still figuring out how the time travel sort of worked.
yeah,
So like we were more fixating on like how they seemed to like load in and stuff that we
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
missed this very obvious, hey, wait a minute, that's so his father. We were like too busy with the sci-fi element to link in the father there for a second. And
Yeah, no,
also,
yeah.
like he disappears in the past for a good long while. We don't see him for a bit, and then we only see him in the context of him with his family. So we sort of forgot for a moment.
Yeah, that's exactly you're exactly right. I kind of
Yeah.
forgot, and then comes back. And I will say, if you want me, I think this guy might be my favorite character now. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I like Hay. I do really like Hay. So maybe not, but I love that elevator scene. He was just so in control. He was dodging bullets. He was dodging bullets. He was
Yeah.
like at the end when the elevator opened and the guy was standing there. You think, oh my god, he actually got him, and then he falls down dead. I
It was
love
a
this
lot of
man.
fun.
I love this man.
Yeah, it was great because like I love his little moment at the start where he turns around where he's like, guns are actually very bad at close range, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it gave me like real like Captain America Winter Soldier vibes, like where
Yes.
he was basically like, before this starts, does anyone want to get off? Basically,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's just one really cool cop beating up an assassin from Team Seven. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very good. He's a lot more active than because like the thing with like Hunty Sul, he has ridiculous MacGyver like powers to like make things on the fly. Not a combat guy for the most part. Like usually Sohei is doing that, so it's really fun to see another person get really heavily involved in the combat, and it does lead into how Sohei is such a badass because it's like, oh, her dad taught her like how to be like this kick ass,
Yeah,
in the future. So it's like it's very good. It's a lot of fun. It's
yeah.
badass family.
It's absolutely awesome, and I will say as well, you're right in terms of Hunte Sewell not being the most badass guy. At the
Yeah.
end of the last episode, when he was walking through as the music said da da da, started, and he's walking through the lobby, and then Hay was like, "He's coming, he's here," and then cut to this episode, and he's like got this electrical wire. He's like, "Oh my god, like just
He did.
scrambling around."
Yeah, he didn't want to electric. Like he can't fight anybody, so he has to do like Home Alone esque traps on people
Yeah,
to like take them out. And like I like so when like he and Mr. Park and such release a load of the other prisoners. I don't know if you noticed this. One thing I love to do with shows, and I don't know if other people love to do it, is looking at some of like the background people and what
Oh
they're
yeah, the
doing in
contortionist
scenes.
guys.
Yes, oh my god, the contortionist guys, because obviously they're supposed to be people who didn't load in properly
Yeah, yeah.
and like are all like messed up, but it's just dudes doing a bit of like contortionist stuff.
If
So it
their
just
arm
looks
is
like
stuck like that, how did the guy
yeah,
who was contortioning get the other one in a headlock? Like,
yeah. It's so weird because it's just like it's one of those like sort of cheaper moments where it's like those guys are just holding their bodies in a weird way. That's not like they haven't like mutated or anything like that. What are you
you're
talking
exactly
about?
right in terms of calling it the cheaper moments. I was talking about this
Yeah,
with Ema when we were watching it actually, and that's exactly what she said. Like she said, for a show with such a high production value most of the time, and they really tried to like make this really good quality. It's much higher quality than I ever expected it to be. And then
yeah,
all of a sudden, you just got like a contortionist holding his arm a weird way in the background. It was very amateurish to me,
yeah.
and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I just mean that it sort of took me out of it a bit.
Yeah, it was a bit odd. Like I feel like they were there because like obviously with their like completely shaved heads and the weird sort of look, they're supposed to be quite intimidating. But with them doing like the weird contortionist thing, I feel like they should have been like slightly more in the background and more obscured, so
Yeah.
you less notice the fact that they're just contorting
Yeah,
their
like
bodies and
through the
ways.
phased windows or whatever. It was perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
It was perfect. You know.
yeah, it was very funny at the same time where I was like, those are just they're just doing their stretches after being in a cell for so long,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like before this fight starts off.
In terms of Mr. Park, like in the last episode, it sort of implied that he was going to be like the mastermind to this big escape, and then all of a sudden it's just like doors are open, off I go. you
Yeah.
know?
To be fair, he was a lot of like there was a lot of fun tension between him and Hante Sewell this episode
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because the reason that he's in that prison is because Hante Sewell sold them out basically and like like betrayed them. So like he's really considering killing Hante Sewell for a good chunk of the episode, and like he keeps his promise to the other guy that he threatened beforehand, where it's like, I'm gonna kill everyone, but not you, and it sort of like helps, cause a lot of chaos. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he this is a good episode for Mr. Park because not only does he get to be like badass and quite threatening, but we finally kind of get a little bit more like backstory stuff from him, which is very cool, and how it links into like the grander scheme
Yeah.
of the whole Sisyphus show. I was really excited about that.
I thought the idea of this first group that went through the uploader, I honestly thought that was really cool. I like that aspect to it now. The fact that there was this sort of almost brave group that went through for the first. They were the first ones to go through. Sigma was one, and they all had their own ideas of what they were going to go through and do. So it seems that Mr. Park literally went through with the intention of. I don't think maybe he was going through with the intention of being this broker, but I think he went through with the intention of going in, setting up a spot, and like making sure that he could receive his family back as well. Which is really interesting to me because obviously Sigma was like, you know what, I'm just going to go make a lot of money and do a lot of powerful stuff, probably influence the creation of this thing in particular. So it's interesting that Mr. Park doesn't seem to. It's almost like Sigma was asked to do what he's doing by someone else, or he just realized himself, well, someone's got to start this whole thing. But Mr. Park was just like, well, I'm going to go back and try and get my family back too.
Yeah, well, I think so that Sigma is very like planned and calculated. It seems like Mr. Park is more of an opportunist in the sense of like he's been in this situation and he's waiting for his family to come through, and that's why he set up the brokerage. But like to keep himself going, he's turned the brokerage into a little bit of a money laundering situation where like he'll like basically help mug people coming from the future, steal their valuables and keep himself afloat so he can continue to like work on it. So Sigma is like really, really well planned out, whereas he's more of like almost like a common thief situation where it's like, I just need enough money to keep going until my family come through. And that's why that's how Hante Sewell obviously gets him in line because he, Hante Sewell's his way through a situation and like hacks into their
the downloader,
their downloader, and their systems and turns it all off and basically it's like either you help me or it's not coming back on. And again, it's one of the more sort of makes sense because he's like, I designed it obviously, so I obviously would have made a backdoor, so I just did what I would have
Yeah.
done in that timeline. So it sort of makes sense how he was able to hack it so easily. It's like, yeah, he knows his own designs and knows what he would do in that situation, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't mind that actually. That was one of the more realistic
Yeah.
Hante Souls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
weirdly, the later we get into the season, the more realistic the Hunter Sewell MacGyver moments get. Like at the start of the season, we began with like some of the more ridiculous, but as it went on, like they've got more grounded in a weird way.
like
I don't know.
this man.
Yeah,
If you were just to watch this episode, you think this man is a very competent MacGyver-like guy.
yeah,
He's literally just like electrocuting water. Fair enough, that makes kind of sense. He's
yeah.
hacking into a program which he's going to make or which he has made, whatever. It makes complete sense. But we'll cut back a few episodes back to whenever he was rigging up Coke bottles to fly into people's faces. It's
Or episode 1 where he bursts into a pilot's thing is like, I can figure out how to fix this on the fly. Yeah, this is fair.
no pun
I
intended.
like planes. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, is that where "on the fly" comes from? That saying?
Ah,
Did
maybe
we accidentally realize where that saying comes from?
we discovered the etymology about it from making jokes.
Yeah.
You know what? The English language is so weird. I would buy that a phrase came about for figuring out how to fix something when you're plummeting to the ground in a plane. You know?
Or yeah, exactly, or even like we'll fix the landing gear once we're in the air.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Two more things actually. The first thing is that in the future, Hay leaves her father because she trusts herself. She trusts her own voice above all else. And her father's saying like, "What you're gonna do doesn't work. Don't go." And she doesn't mind. She still goes. Well, this is an interesting thing. Maybe I'm waiting this too much for you, but what I want to know is what the hell's going to go on, because I'm predicting now that the father's going to see the letter and then just run to her, because we all know from the first ever episode of this show, her father is there with her before she goes through. So
You know, I think he will follow her and sort of have to go along with the plan to a certain extent because you know she is so set on it. You know, obviously the first episode of the After Dark podcast with myself on it has dropped recently, and all I can think of at the moment is I wouldn't maybe necessarily listen too closely to what my future self says after watching that show. I don't know. You never know what your future self is planning. You know,
there was definitely a lot of like that happening where like you're causing the thing you don't want to happen in this. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I understand why she's trusting herself, but again, maybe I've just been burnt too badly by Dark a lot of the times where I am nervous about her following her own suggestion. You know.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Talking about Dark, we know that there's a little penny that goes around time in that. What do you think about the slight change of that sort of idea in this with the necklace? And they join the necklace into one of the cheaper moments of CG as well. Well, not, it wasn't even CG. It was literally just a fade, like a transition. So what do you think about that? Where like the two turn into one, and then the next time round, I suppose, because it is an object, so the object will travel forever. The next time round, it will all again join. Like that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the situations of like it's fulfilling the sort of promise they had sort of indicated earlier in the show, that the idea that like if the past and the present self meet, if they connect, then they merge into one. So this was a good way of like setting up like that it is a literal merge, but it is that sort of bootstrap paradox thing of like it merging with itself, but like it's supposedly still the same object all the way through. All I was thinking of when he was doing this was like, wait, Hante, don't do that, because then Sohei won't have her necklace anymore. And that'll be real sad. She likes that necklace, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I'm giving it to the your mother, who's going to give it to the younger self. But she would have already had that to give. So I'm just taking the necklace away, hey.
Yeah, it's just real rude, you know? That was a treasured family heirloom, you know?
Yeah. God. And they had two of them. That was doubly treasured.
Exactly.
All right. Last question. Or last topic. Sigma, a giant cage, and Agnes Kim.
Agnes Kim. Yes, we got revealed that Hante Sewell's ex-girlfriend in the future becomes one of the chrononauts, chrono travelers, whatever we want to call them, the first explorers of going back in time. and she set up like this orphanage situation,
Yeah.
possibly to assuage some of her guilt from some of the stuff that she did before in her life. And the Hante Sul has come to her because she is the person that makes like the poison that Sohei is dying of at the moment.
Yep.
So he's trying to find out if he can like fix her. But again, not again. I'm just comparing this to Dark a lot because I'm
In the middle of
Dark.
it. Yeah.
I'm deep in there. But it's very funny going from Dark, where they work very hard to cast actors who look really like the other points of like someone's timeline.
Yeah.
And like that seems like a lot of hard work. And it's very funny in Sisyphus, where they just like dye the actress's hair a little grey at points and have her hold her face at a certain angle
Yeah.
to sort of pretend to be older. And it's like you're not fooling anyone. At least with
Well, wasn't even fooling Hante Sul. Not fooling
Exactly.
anyone. He literally just says, "Right, Kim, come out of here. Let's just have a chat."
Get out of the shot. Stop being mysterious in the corner over there. Get out here. But at least with Sohei's father, he at least sort of like grows a beard or something.
Yeah.
In like the future, so like he looks a bit like he looks a bit different, and he was already sort of like slightly older to begin with. So
but the thing is, like, when you're going from 40 to 50, it's not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
But when you go, like, she actually aged up to then go through the uploader, and then spent a long time. So she's actually doubly aged.
Yeah. So you would expect her to maybe show a few more signs of aging than just badly dyed hair and slight bags under the eyes or whatever they did with the makeup. It was a little awkward, but it makes sense at the same time that she would maybe be one of the people who would want to come back in time after everything that's happened in her life at this stage,
Yeah. All right.
And we also, and it's a little thing, but we also seen when she gave back Eddie's ring this episode. This is just a little detail, and because she won't tell him what's going on, and poor Eddie Kim continues to have just a rough old life,
Eddie, like, you know what, Eddie, I'm actually coming around on Eddie. It doesn't seem like it, I really do actually believe that they are going to do it like that. He just didn't know what was going on at all. It seems that way.
He genuinely seems to be deeply confused about everything that's going on. He seems to have been played by almost everybody at some stage of the story. So I feel a certain amount of sympathy for him.
Right. All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Emmett. We are going to come back next week with episode 11 of Sisyphus. 6 more to go. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this show finishes. Will it live up to expectations, which are crazy / pretty good, actually, pretty good. I'm looking forward, and they keep adding more stuff in. So you'd expect as weeks go on, the chance of it all being wrapped up in a nice little package get less because they're adding more stuff in. Having said that, if this is, as I say, only a 1-series jobby, then it's going to actually hopefully have been properly planned and they're going to have everything joined together, which I'm really looking forward for. Join us next week when we will discuss, is Salamander Man ever coming back?
Please,
who
let him come back.
Salamander Man? I'm hoping now, if we don't discuss that, it's because he didn't come back in the next episode, but I'm hoping he does. He's gonna be someone, isn't he?
If he isn't someone, he needs to have his own show. We need to have like a prequel series following Salamander Man. We need to follow him and see how he ended up where he was.
I will say, Emmett, that actually my prediction that is either Hante Sul himself or Eddie Kim is actually okay. It's open now because it could be Salamander Man, could be one of them who has had to have that injection and then the antidote given to them and it took their memory.
Ooh, that could be it. I want to make a prediction now that we've seen the two necklaces connect.
Oh, yeah.
I think either Hante Sul or Sohei is going to merge with another version of herself. Yeah, either Hante Sul or Sohei, one of the two.
I think Hante Sul's more likely. I think.
I'd lean on that one. Yeah.
I think if we're gonna buy into the idea of it ending up being just one continual cycle, then I don't think that could happen with her. But I will back up your prediction in that I think someone is going. It's going to happen to someone. I think. Yeah.
They wouldn't show that moment if it wasn't going to pay off. I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Emmett. Well, thanks very much, and we'll catch you later. Guys. See you next week for the next episode of Sisyphus. Bye.